Hey everybody, how are you? I'm JS and welcome once again to freedrumcoaching.com. This week we're going to do something just a little bit different. I've received a bunch of emails, obviously over the last few weeks, asking some questions based on technique and grooves and all sorts of stuff. And of course I can't get to all of them. I do reply to most of them, but one question in particular was about balancing out the hand technique. In particular, they asked, what do I personally do to develop my weaker hand and to get it more in sync with my stronger hand? Great question. Balancing out your stronger and weaker hand, for me, my weaker hand is my left hand. I'm a righty player. So for me to balance out my left hand or to develop it really takes a lot of time. You don't want to rush this. Your left hand, your weaker hand is not going to become strong overnight. This really takes a long time. You have to understand, for me, I'm a right hand dominant person. So my entire life, everything, we take for granted how much we actually use our stronger hand. Opening doors, opening jaws, waving hello, writing, touching, everything. We really use it so much that when we try to do some of these things isolated with a weaker hand, it just feels like somebody else's arm. Sometimes when I'll do something with my drums with my left hand, I'm just like, oh my God, it just doesn't even feel like my hand. Even with the house, try this sometimes. Brush your teeth with your left hand. Start turning doorknobs with your left hand. Things like that. But anyway, we'll get into more of this as we go along with these lessons. But I did want to touch base on some simple things that you can do to not only balance out and develop your hand, but to isolate the issues. That's the problem. The problem isn't that your hand's not getting better. The problem is that you're not taking the time out to figure out exactly what is keeping your hand from getting better. What's holding it back? What's inhibiting your progress, right? Now, what do? As drummers, we sit down, we take our sticks, we want to do a single stroke roll. That's what we're going to practice. So we sit down and we do our single stroke roll. We want to do a double stroke roll, double paradiddles, and so on and so on and so on. Then we sit there one day and we're working on our stronger hand, molar technique, whatever you're doing, and we pick up our weaker hand and we're like, oh, what's going on with it? Why does it feel like this? I don't understand. And we sit there just looking at our weaker hand. Well, if I keep doing this, it's going to get better. No, it's not. The problem is you're not comparing it. Yeah, we will. We'll sit there and go, what's going on? It's not getting better. This is what we need to do. Instead of alternating our strokes, you need to start doing your strokes at the same time. Think of that. If I'm just tapping right now with my wrists, I'm in German grip, just tapping down, picking the sticks back up with the rebound, not relying solely on the rebound, but also not down and up just with my wrist. Just nicely bouncing the sticks lightly in kind of a 3-point fulcrum, relying on this area here as opposed to just this, relying on these 3 points here. Just tapping, you can feel where the stick is touching and is not touching your hand on your left hand as opposed to your right hand. You can feel where the fingers are resting on your right hand along the stick and how are they resting on your left hand, on your weaker hand. How am I moving? Am I moving my wrist here? Am I moving from my elbow here? You have to start looking at all these things. So the best thing for you to do is take some simple movements, a single stroke. Just tap it out. Really focus on your posture, the rebound, the positioning of your hand, making sure one hand's not like this and one hand's up. Making sure you're not lower here with a little arch in your wrist and straight and hitting the butt of the stick or the taper of the stick here and the tip of the stick here. I personally found a lot of my issues happened because as I would play, I would relax this arm here, and I got into this habit as I would come around to do my rolls, I would be in a right position here, but here I was limiting my movement and my range of motion because of bad positioning. So it's taking me, not took me, I'm not done. It's taking me a long time and a lot of focus and a lot of effort to get this hand up in a higher position so that doesn't happen and I can get a better range of motion. And one of the ways I found this was doing exactly this again. Tapping both hands. No metronome. This is not about time. This is not about the space between the notes. This is not about notation. This is not about singles. This is not about doubles. This is not about paradiddles. This is about looking at my hand. Is my left hand here? Is my hand here? Let me even put the overhead camera on so we can even get a better view of just these little differences. So as I'm sitting here tapping, am I here with one hand? Am I here? Is this hand turned? Is this hand turned? Am I sloppy? Am I hitting like this? I want even sounds, even height. Now, the other thing you have to do, aside from all these positions and feel, is that pressure, that downward momentum. Like I said, we take for granted how much we use our strong hand, how much strength we have in our strong hand without even having to think about the strength. All right. But when we get to our left hand, our weaker hand, it is the weaker hand, our throwdown isn't even going to be as strong and controlled as it is with our right hand because we've developed our fulcrum. We've got this thumb and forefinger control that's weaker in this hand. So those are other things that we'll get into another time. Right now, I just want you to really balance out the indifferences in your grip, all right? So again, back to this, just doing this stroke, feeling this difference. This would be one thing I would suggest to do, is just tapping your sticks down, both, and using that downward force and coming back up with the rebound and bringing it back down. You have to let that rebound come up and learn how to get that downward momentum to create that perpetual motion, okay? That kinetic energy. So as you're doing this again, your finger placement, your wrist placement, where the stick is touching, where the stick isn't touching, the position of your arms, the positions of your shoulders, your posture, all this stuff, you can hear how it started to flutter. Just as soon as I started to make some differences, it started to flam. So you've got to watch all of these things. Now, aside from just tapping like this, another thing you want to do is that double. You want to understand the double. So if I sit here and do my push and pull, push and pull, push and pull, push and pull, or molar, I'm going to work the same thing with both hands again. So I'll work my doubles, my molar motion. Now this is one of the best ones here. Down and up. You pick this motion up. Good downward force, free upstroke. As I'm doing this, I'm really focusing that all of my fingers for this exercise are staying on the stick on both hands. I'm really trying to work that power and control of manipulating and bringing the stick back with my pinky on both hands. So I'm really focusing on right now, personally, making sure when I'm doing a lot of these strokes, I can still feel it. I don't need to let the stick come all the way up here and then pull it down. I can work it and keep my fingers on the stick and feel that and develop my fingers. So we've got two things to do so far. One, your single tap down, feeling it, letting it bounce up. Whether you're in your standard traditional fulcrum like this, or you're using a 3-point and relaxing the fingers on top, it works every single way. So do your singles. Good pressure down. Follow the stick back up. Then your molar motion. Doubles. Okay, and when you do that in German grip, the foundation grip, this is the grip that we always come back to regardless of whatever we're doing around the set. We usually come back to this good, solid grip. The natural motion of German grip is perfect. So you're going to work on three things: your single, your molar, and your double, just to feel the balance of the stick. But what I also want you to do is if you are more of an intermediate or advanced player. Let's not worry about American position here right now. Let's bring it all the way in, almost between French and American, and start working on this. Now, I showed you before that little 3-point kind of, we have our fulcrum, we bring this in, you get more of a gyroscopic control with this type of a position here on the stick. You can bring in the top finger, you can rely on the top finger with some bounce, all sorts of stuff. I'm getting off topic and ahead of the game here, but balancing out, this is kind of important. What I also want you to do is start to bring this in and develop your thumb and forefinger together. That's all I'm using for that is just my thumb and forefinger. And then don't worry so much about that exercise where it's then your middle finger, then your ring finger, then your pinky finger. Don't worry about that so much. Go from thumb and forefinger to all fingers. Duration. I'm going to just sit here and over-exaggerate and say, for hours. I want you sitting here balancing out your hands. Over and over and over and over. And now this is one of those things that I'm going to promise you. I promise you, for a week, 10 minutes a day, if you sit there and work on these exercises, balancing out your grip, working on your fulcrum, your thumb and forefinger development, and then all your fingers, bringing them in, going back to this position and doing it again, doing these exercises over and over this week. I guarantee you by next Monday, your hand technique will feel so much better. You will have much more control, and it's going to inspire you. That's how we get our motivation, when we honestly see that progress. And it does come easy, but you have to sit down, you have to do these exercises, and you have to focus, and not just focus for 4 minutes and do them for 4 minutes and then walk away. You have to focus for 40 minutes and do them for 40 minutes or 60 minutes. And you have to do that 2 times a day, 3 times a day, as much as you can without driving yourself crazy, without hurting yourself, without making your neighbors or your spouse or your partner or your friends crazy, okay? Now listen. New Year's Day is this Thursday, January 1st, 2015, at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right on freedrumcoaching.com. I am hosting a live cyber clinic. What is a cyber clinic? It's basically a live drum lesson, but more along the lines of a clinic-oriented type of a feel. I'll be performing to some of my original tunes. I'll be talking about how we can get better progress and better success under our belts for 2015. I'm going to be giving away some stuff, cymbals and sticks and memberships to my sites, all sorts of stuff. Spread the word. freedrumcoaching.com, January 1st, 2015, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, with a live open chat room. I'll be taking questions after I do the clinic. Get every drummer you know to come in. It's New Year's Day. Most of us are sitting around watching TV, not doing anything on New Year's Day. It's a perfect time, and it is the perfect way to wrap up 2014. And I promise I'm going to do my very best to find that inspiration and way for you to find your own motivation for 2015. We're going to have a downloadable focus guide chart for you to take home with you, and I'll show you how to use it. So make sure you're there, everybody, okay? And don't forget to subscribe to the freedrumcoaching.com site. You got to go on that homepage. You got to put your email address in the subscribe button, because these lessons, these videos are not for YouTube. They're not for Vimeo. They're only going to be available on freedrumcoaching.com at some point. So make sure you subscribe so you know when everything is happening and you keep up with the updates. Okay, everybody, thank you so much. Take care, and I'll see you soon.